All right, so here are some examples that we can try out that use some of these different rules for finding integrals, okay? And we're not told exactly what the functions are. We're just going to try and use these rules to sort out what goes where and how. So one of the rules said that if I take my 1 to 4 and I switch it around, then that would be the same thing as negative 1 to 4. So I've got that guy. I've got that rule right here. It's -2. So it's the same thing as negative 2. All right. So that's one of my rules right there. Hold on, let me find my rule sheet also. Okay. What about from -1 to 4? Well, that's the same thing as going -1 to 1 of fx dx plus 1 to 4 fx dx. And so if I look at one of my rules, I can add the integral things together, the different integrals. So what do I have? Well, -1 to 1 is 5. And 1 to 4 is -2. So 5 plus -2, or 3. What about this guy? Oh boy, what's going on here? We've got -1 to 1 of 2fx plus 3hx. So let's separate this out. We'll use our rules again. We're going to go from -1 to 1 of 2fx dx plus -1 to 1 of 3h dx. 3hx dx. Let me make that better here. 3hx dx. Okay. Well, one of my rules said, I could add or subtract these integrals together, so I switched to adding. The other rule said I can move the constant out in front, so I have 2 times -1 to 1 of fx dx plus, and then I can move the 3 out and go from -1 to 1 of hx dx. And so what do I end up with? I end up with 2 times this guy, 5, 2 times 5, plus 3 times this guy right here, 3 times 7. And so that's going to be 10 plus 21, or 30. Let me double check that. I think that's where we went. Hold on one second. Let me look at my book. Yes. All right. Righto. Okay. Now, look at D. 0 to 1 fx dx. I don't think we're going to have enough information to solve this out. There's no way that we could subtract one of these around to get to 0, just 0 to 1. And so on this particular one, D, we just don't have enough info, not enough info. Now, if we had another problem, or if we had another rule that we could use, or if we had kind of a little bit of a different situation, we'd be okay. All right. What about the next one? The next one goes from -2 to 2. Well, kind of the same thing. Kind of the same thing as on D. There's really not enough info. I can go from -1 to 1, but we don't have a rule for multiplying our limits of integration by a constant. Like, we don't have a rule for that. So there's really not enough info for that guy. Now that takes us to F. Well, I can rewrite F as -1 to 4 of f of x dx plus -1 to 4 of hx dx. I can do this guy. This is -2, but I can't do this guy because, again, I don't have a rule for him. I don't have a rule to go from -1 to 4. I've only got one h of x guy, and he goes from -1 to 1. So this guy also would be not enough info. Like, I need a little bit different info, maybe another integral to look at to figure out exactly what's going to work best to add those together. But there's how you use some of your basic rules. A, B, and C, you're going to do a lot in your calculus courses. D, E, and F, you won't see so much in the future, but it's good to recognize, when you can and cannot use rules.